Hey guys! I'm going to read chapter 4 of Rubyfruit Jungle. I actually recorded this over the weekend when I was at my best friend's house, and I didn't have my laptop with me. I did it on my phone, and it didn't upload to YouTube, so great job, iPhone. So, I'm going to be reading chapter 4 of Rubyfruit Jungle for you today. Cheryl Spiegelglass lived on the other side of the woods. Her daddy was a used car salesman, and they had more money than the rest of us in the hollow. Cheryl wore a dress, even when she didn't have to. I hated her for that, plus she was always sucking up to the adults. Carrie loved her and said she looked exactly like Shirley Temple, and why didn't I look like that instead of roaming around the fields in torn pants and dirty t-shirts? Cheryl and I had been friends of a sort since first grade, so sometimes we played together. Carrie squirmed like a dog with a new bone every time I'd go off to the Spiegelglasses' place, partly because she thought I was moving into polite society, and partly because she hoped Cheryl would influence me for the better. Leroy usually tagged along. Neither Leroy nor I could stand it when Cheryl carted out her dolls, so when she had doll days, we steered clear. One time, Cheryl decided to play nurse, and we put napkins on our heads. Leroy was the patient, and we painted him with iodine so he'd look wounded. A nurse? I wasn't going to be no nurse. If I was going to be something, I was going to be the doctor and give orders. I tore off my napkin and told Cheryl I was the new doctor in town. Her face corroded. You can't be a doctor. Only boys can be doctors. Leroy's got to be the doctor. You're full of shit, Spiegelglass. Leroy's dumber than I am. I got to be the doctor because I'm the smart one, and being a girl doesn't matter. You'll see. You think you can do what boys do, but you're going to be a nurse. No two ways about it. It doesn't matter about brains. Brains don't count. What counts is whether you're a boy or a girl. I hauled off and belted her one. Shirley Temple Spiegelglass wasn't going to tell me I couldn't be a doctor, nor anybody else. Of course, I didn't want to be a doctor. I was going to be president, only I kept it a secret. But if I wanted to be a doctor, I'd go be one, and ain't nobody going to tell me otherwise. So I got in trouble, of course. Cheryl went snotty-nosed into her mother and showed her the split lip I gave her. Ethel Spiegelglass, mother hen, came flying out of that house with the real aluminum awnings on it, and grabbed me by the t-shirt and gave me a piece of her mind, which was very uncomplimentary to me. She told me I couldn't see Cheryl for a week. That was fine with me. I didn't want to see nobody who'd tell me I couldn't be a doctor. Leroy and I started home. You really gonna be a doctor, Molly? No, I ain't. I'm going to be something lots better than a doctor. If you're a doctor, you have to look at scabs and blood. Besides, only people in one place know your name. I got to be something that everybody knows my name. I'm going to be great. Great what? Well, that's a secret. Tell, come on, you can tell me. I'm your best friend. No, but I'll tell you when you're old enough to vote. When's that? When you're 21. That's 10 years from now. I might be dead. I'll be an old man. Tell me now. No, forget it. Anyway, whatever I am, I'll make sure you get some of the goodies, so let me do it my own way. Leroy settled for that, but with rancor. We got home, and Carrie was hopping mad. Somehow, between my splitting Cheryl's lip and us walking home, she gathered the news. You big-mouthed brat. Can't play nice, can you? Can't act like a lady, no way. You're a heathen, that's what you are. You're going up there and hitting that sweet child. How could you do such a thing? How am I going to show my face around here? And you doing such a thing so soon after Jenna's passed away? You got no sense of respect. God knows, try to be right. You're not my child. You're wild, some wild animal. Your father must have been an ape or something. Leroy's mouth fell open. He didn't know about me yet. Damn, I could have killed Carrie for shooting her big mouth off right then. Why'd she have to let me out in front of fat Leroy? She's the one with no respect. She ran on, and she got me for this offense and that offense, as well as 100 trespasses. She's going to make a lady out of me that summer, a crash program. She was going to keep me in the house to teach me to act right, cook, clean, and sew, and that scared me. I can learn them things at night. You don't have to keep me in the house during the day. You're staying in this house with me, Miss Molly. No more going out with the Rough House Hollow gang. That's one of the things wrong with you that I can fix. Your blood's another matter. Leroy sat down quietly at the table and played with the diagonal pattern on the tablecloth. He wasn't liking this no more than I was. If Molly stays in, then I stay in. Leroy, I love you. You ain't staying in here, Leroy Denman. You're a boy, and you go out and play like boys are supposed to do. It's not right for you to learn those things. I don't care. I'm going where Molly goes. She's my best friend and my cousin, and we got to stick together. Carrie tried to reason with Leroy, but he wouldn't budge until she started telling him what would happen to him if he picked up women's ways. Now old Leroy was shaking. Everybody would point at him and laugh. Nobody would play with him if he stayed in with me, and soon they'd take him to the hospital and cut his thing off. Leroy sold out. Okay, Aunt Carrie, I won't stay in the house. He looked at me with utter defeat and guilt. Leroy, you ain't no friend of mine. Carrie went down into the root cellar to get jars and rubber rings. Canning was going to be my first lesson. Before she hit the last step, I leaped at the door, shut it, and locked it. She didn't notice it until she was ready to come up. Then she called out, Molly, Leroy, door's shut, let me out. Leroy was scared shitless. Molly, let her out or they'll beat us both good. Ep will get out the strap. Just let her out. You take one step toward that door, Leroy Denman, and I'll slit your throat. I picked up the carving knife to make my words true. Leroy was between the devil and the deep blue sea. Molly, let me out of this root cellar. I ain't letting you out of that root cellar till you promise to let me go free. Till you promise I don't have to stay in this house and learn to sew. I'll promise no such thing. Then you staying in that root cellar till Jesus comes back. I walked out the door and slammed it so she could hear, dragging Leroy with me every step of the way. No one was home. Florence was down at the West York market. Ted was at the Esso station, and Carl and Ep were at work. No one could hear her pounding on that door and screaming her lungs out except Leroy and me. Her screams just scalded Leroy. She's dying in there. You gotta let her out. She'll go blind in the dark. Molly, please, let her out. She ain't dying in there. She ain't going blind, and I ain't letting her out. What does she mean about you not being her child? About you being an animal? She don't know what she's talking about. Talking through her hat. Don't pay no attention to her. Well, you don't look like her, nor Carl either. You don't look like any of us. Maybe you ain't hers. You're the only one in the hollow with black hair and brown eyes. Hey, maybe she found you in the bulrushes like Moses. Shut up, Leroy. He was on the track. He was bound to find out sooner or later, since Carrie let the cat out of the bag, so I guessed I'd have to tell him. It's true what she says. I ain't hers. I don't belong to nobody. I got no true mother nor father, and I ain't your real cousin, and this ain't my home. But it don't matter. It matters to her when she gets mad at me. She says I'm a bastard then, but it don't matter to me. But we're still cousins in our own way. Blood's just something old people talk about to make you feel bad. Hey, Leroy, you don't care none, do you? Leroy was buckling under the weight of the news. If we ain't true cousins, then what are we? We gotta be something. We're friends, though we might as well be cousins, 'cause we're together all the time. What does it mean, bastard? What's the difference between you and me if you ain't Carrie and Carl? It means that your mother, Jenna, was married to F when she had you, and my mother, whoever she is, wasn't married to my dad, whoever he is. That's exactly what it means. Well, hell, Molly, what's being married? It's a piece of paper, that's all I can figure. Some people don't even have to stand in front of a preacher, so it ain't religion. You can go on up down to the courthouse and sign up like Uncle F signed up for the Marine Corps. Then you hear words said over you, and you both sign this piece of paper, and you're married. Could we get married? Sure, but we gotta be old. 15 or 16, at least. That's only 4 more years, Molly. Let's get married. Leroy, we don't need to get married. We're together all the time. It's silly to get married. Besides, I'm never getting married. Well, everybody gets married. It's something you have to do, like dying. I ain't doing it. I don't know, Molly. You're headed for a hard life. You say you're going to be a doctor or something great. Then you say you ain't getting married. You have to do some of the things everybody does, or people don't like you. I don't care whether they like me or not. Everybody's stupid. That's what I think. I care if I like me. That's what I truly care about. Now that's the damnedest dumb thing I ever heard. Everybody likes themselves. In fact, Florence says you've got to learn not to like yourself so much and like other people. Since when have you started listening to Florence? I can't like anybody if I don't like myself. Period. Molly, you're flat out crazy. Everybody likes themselves. I'm telling you. Oh yeah, smartass? Did you like yourself when you told Carrie you'd go out and play and leave me trapped inside with a sewing basket? Leroy's face flashed shame. Bullseye. He switched the subject to save himself having to think on that anymore. If you're not going to get married, then I won't either. Why do people get married anyway? So's they can fuck. What? Leroy's voice went into a high-pitched trill. Fuck. Molly Bolt, that is a dirty word. Dirty or not, that's what they do. Do you know what it means? Not exactly, but it has something to do with taking all your clothes off and messing around. Remember how upset Florence got when those two dogs were stuck together? That's what it is, I think. I don't know how anyone would want to do it, because those dogs didn't look very happy about it. I know that's what it is. Besides, I've seen dirty books Ted hides under his mattress, and you should see them. It'd make you sick, for sure. Dirty books? Yeah, Ted's been reading them ever since his voice started cracking. You ask me? I think his mind is cracking right along with it, myself. How'd you find out he was reading them? Spied on him. After you go to sleep, he turns the light back on, so I knew he was up to something, and I snuck out for a peek. There he was, reading. Now the only books in this house are the Bible and our school books. I know he ain't reading none of them. You are truly smart, Molly, Leroy said with admiration. Yeah, I know. Carrie's screams and poundings had died down by this time. Let's go back and see if she's ready to make a deal. A soft whimper came from behind the cellar door when I knocked on it. Mom, you ready to come out now? You ready to make that deal? I'm ready. Just let me out of this dark hole. It's full of bugs. I unbolted the door and opened it. Carrie was sitting on the root cellar steps like a little girl, holding her arms and crunched over. She looked up at me with pure hate and flew out of the cellar like a jack-in-the-box. She grabbed me by the hair before I could dodge and started hitting me in the face, stomach, and when I doubled over like a porcupine, she hit me on the back with both fists at once. I could feel my eyes start to close up already. I was so busy trying to get away from her that I didn't hear what she was calling me. Leroy fled the house in total terror. He didn't once try to gang up on her. If he'd blasted her with a couple good kicks, I might have gotten away, but Leroy never was tactical. Plus, he had a streak of the coward in him. That night I was sent to bed without supper. I didn't care because I couldn't eat my supper anyway. My mouth was all swelled up and ugly, and it hurt to talk. The whole crew got Carrie's version of my sins, and I couldn't open my mouth in self-defense. I guess she thought she'd shame me in front of all of them, but I stared at her with real pride as I marched into the bedroom. She wasn't going to beat me down, nohow. Let 'em all get mad at me. I wasn't giving her a goddamned inch, not one. I crawled in bed, but I was so sore I couldn't sleep, and late that night I heard Carrie and Carl get in a blowout. Only time I ever heard Carl raise his voice, and I bet the rest of the house heard him too. Carrie, the child's high-spirited and she's smart. You got to remember that. That kid's quicker than all of us put together. She started reading all by herself when she was 3 with no help from any of us. You got to treat her with some respect for her brains. She's a good girl, just full of life and the devil, that's all. I don't give a damn how brainy she is. She don't act natural. It ain't right for a girl to be running all around with the boys at all hours. She climbs trees, takes cars apart, and worse, she tells them what to do, and they listen to her. She don't want to learn none of the things she has to know to get a husband. Smart as she is, a woman can't get on this world without a husband. We can't be sending no girl to school as it is. It's the boys we got to worry about. Them's the ones will be earning livings. You make too much of her head. Molly is going to college. Big talk. My daughter is going to college. Your daughter. That's a laugh. That's the first time I heard you say that. She's Ruby Drawlinger's bastard. That's who she is. Where do you get off with this daughter crap? She's mine as much as if I'd been her real father, and I watch out for her. Real father. What right have you got to talk about being a real father? If you'd been a real father, I'd have my own daughter, and she wouldn't be like that wild hellcat you stick up for. She'd be a real little lady like Cheryl Spiegelglass. Your daughter. You make me sick. Honey, you're all upset. You don't know how you're sounding. Molly is yours, just as if she was your own. A child's got to have parents, and you're her mother. I am not her mother. I am not her mother, Carrie shrieked. She didn't come from my body. Florence had babies come from her body, and she tells me it's not the same. She knows. She told me I'll never know what it's like to be a real mother. What do you know? Men don't know about these things. Men don't know anything. Mother, father, what's the difference, Cat? It's how you feel about the child. It's got nothing to do with your body. Molly is my daughter, and if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to see that girl gets a chance in this world neither one of us had. You want her to spend her life like us, sitting back here in the sticks, can't even make enough money for a new dress or dinner at a restaurant? You want her to live a life like you, dishes, cooking, and never going out except maybe to a movie once a month if we can afford it? The child's got brightness in her, Cat, so let her be. She'll go to big cities and be somebody. I can see it in her. She's got dreams and ambition, and she's smart as a whip. Nobody can pull one over on that kid. Be proud for her. You got a daughter to be proud of. You turn my guts. She'll be somebody? That's all I need, Molly traipsing off to a big city like Philadelphia and thinking she's better than the rest of us. She's got highways now. You make her worse. She'll go off to college in a big city and forget you ever lived. That's the thanks you'll get. She don't care for nobody but her own self, that kid. She's a savage animal, locked me in the cellar. You don't live here with her every day and see her like I do. She's wild, I tell you. And how far she's going to get with all her brains, considering her background. We ain't people that can do her good in fancy places. She'll be ashamed of us. And she's a bastard to boot. She got pipe dreams for your daughter. You got pipe dreams for your daughter. She hit on daughter with such bile it made me shudder. Cat, my mind is made up. Molly is having her chance whether you like it or not. She's getting an education. Now you learn to live with it, and you're not to lock her in this house with you. Let her run all over the whole goddamn county and let her knock shit out of Cheryl's speedglass. I never liked that kid anyway. I have one thing to say to you, Carl Bolt. We've never had a fight between us until that child came under our roof. And we never would have had a fight like this if you could have given me a baby. But you had syphilis, that's what you had. You ain't fit to be nobody's father. If I could have had my own, all this would be different. This is all you're doing, and I'll never forget it. My mind's made up. His voice was soft with hurt feelings. We'll just see about that, Carrie hedged. She had to get the last word in, whether anyone listened or not. So that was Chapter 4 of Rubyfruit Jungle. I'll be recording Chapter 5 next. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about this chapter so far, especially what you think about Carrie, Molly's mother. I think that's pretty interesting. So let me know what you think, and I'll be putting up the next chapter soon. Thanks for